Welcome back to our Oryx Talks. We're here with a very special guest today, Valerie. I'll let Val kind of tell you guys about herself, what she does, but we thought it would be helpful to get on and talk a little bit about stress, and as that's really relevant in construction, and Valerie just has some really complimentary insight as to what we talk about already. So Val, thank you so much for coming on with us.
And thank you, Lindsay. Your work at Oryx Talks is really needed in these changing times. Stress, the World Health Organization has warned that mental issues will be the biggest burden of disease in developed countries by 2030. So we are nearly there now. And I just, because I'm based in Australia, I just found as well that the 92% of work-related mental health claims, they are attributed to mental stress. So that's a stunning statistic, and this statistic should get at the attention of the executive trying to control the costs of health-related claims as well.
That's unreal. I did not know that.
Yeah, so I can pass that to you, but it's really stunning. Yeah. So, but just by the fact that it would be the biggest burden in the entire developed country by only, it's probably already is as well. So it's a bit scary
it is.
But my message today is, on one side is scary, on another side there is many things we are in charge of, and so that's what we will discuss. And I've noticed that statistically, men and women are nearly equally affected in the workplace, but it may perhaps not be as much identified by and recognized by men yet. I know you are mainly working in the workforce in the construction work, and so that's important as well to see, okay, where we can put our attention when things are not going like very well in our health or mental health, or the way we relate to our colleagues or boss, or etc., etc.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so just a quick word about myself. I'm Valerie Perret. I'm a wellness coach, so I support people to get through their lack of energy and their fogginess in their life. And together, we mainly work on experiencing the therapeutic effects of food, fast, and mindfulness. So the idea is that like everyone can live the authentic and productive life they dream for themselves. So that's my passion. That's where I'm here on earth. And I'm particularly passionate about the plasticity of the brain, and that's where we met, I think, Lindsay, on this passion about the brain, and more so for me, the relationship to the food we ingest and the functioning of our digestive system. So that's a famous gut-brain connection I'm working on with people.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I love it. I love following your Instagram and just all the good information you share. So yeah, it's really happy to come across that. Well, I guess Chris put me kind of in touch with you, but I'm really glad he did. So
yeah, it's just I think the complementary of the way we approach this reality of stress, particularly at work. What I like to perhaps add is, from an naturopathic point of view, stress is first and foremost a physiological response in the body. So it's unidentified biochemical cascades of events. And these events are triggered by emotion or by physical triggers. So you're working on the emotion side and perception side, and I'm more specialized in the physical triggers, and that can be disease or food intolerances or whatever. So I think it's important as well, because stress is a big word, and there is as many reality as there is people. And so we can call stress being frustrated, being overwhelmed, being worried, being anxious, being mentally foggy, or you can even start to feel more aches and pains. That may be a sign of stress. Have chronic gut issues, particularly like bloating, when you start like you can't get your pants closed correctly, or having regular colds as well. So that they are all signs of stress. So it's an umbrella word for many different reality. And what I want to talk about as well today is it tends to be a catch-22 between the physical, the mental, and the emotional world. And that's where I think we have to talk about together.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Because I think about that all the time, especially I feel like I talk about men a lot, and it's not anything, it's just I guess my target audience, the construction industry, is predominantly male. So I often wonder how many guys out on the job site, and women aren't exempt to this either, women in the industry either, but how many of them would be having physical problems, health problems, all that sort of thing, and it being brought on by stress, by just the emotional toll that the job takes on them. I know just my dad a couple months ago called me really, really upset. Or no, he didn't call me. We were together, and he was just like panicked because his blood pressure was like through the roof. It was pretty concerning. Like at one point, I was considering taking him to an urgent care because it had gotten pretty high. And he's a pretty healthy, active guy. He's an operator for a local construction company here, and he's been in the industry. I think he just told me the other day, 31 years. So longer than I've been alive. And he's just like, I don't know what the issue is. I've never had these problems before. And he was angry telling me about it. And I was just like, Dad, well, listen to how like worked up you are about this, and listen to just think about all the things you just told me that's going on at work. And it's just, they don't, there's not even a connection between the two in his mind, between the stress and the high blood pressure.
Yeah, and that's probably lead me to the point that there is physical sensation we can learn to detect, but some of them are kind of red flags. For me, I call it the body yelling at us. Our body is yelling at us something is wrong and that it's time to change something. And the red flags for me is it starts from a physical point of view. It starts by a racing heart, so blood pressure as well, sweating. If you start to sweat unconsiderably, your rapid breathing as well, or severe tummy upsets at last, and brain fog. So for me, that's the main thing, the red flags that your body is experiencing a stress reaction. And then there is the emotional, and you can talk about that better than me, is that feeling panicky, in fear, guilty, with obsessive thinking, and you are more qualified here to talk about that. But that's good to know what we are looking for, to really assess where you sit on the scale of the stress event.
Yeah, absolutely. It all goes hand in hand, and I think it's hard to find where one starts and the other begins. Your emotional health can be feeding into your physical health, and vice versa. When people are having health problems, and I read a lot of things on what the factors are that cause such high stress in construction workers and things like that. And chronic pain is something that leads to depression, anxiety, and things like that. And that just starts from the physical demand of the job that then leads to the emotional distress, because they're dealing with back pain every day, or whatever the pain is.
And my point is to recognize, there is the body is starting to be under pressure, leading to the emotional characteristic that can be, like you said, depression, anxiety, worry, or stress, etc. But what is good to acknowledge is that this emotional state will make the body more sensitive to the pain. So that's where, and that's my message today, is to recognize stress is a positive response. It's what keeps us alive. What makes us in danger in some ways is when it becomes chronic. because it can profoundly affect the health, the well-being, and the risk for developing chronic disease. We see a lot, and blood pressure is one of them. So the financial and emotional and human costs can be really high over time. And the good news for me is we can change our relationship to this stress to create more balance and peace. And I've been practicing yoga for years now, and in yoga, in this all this traditional medicine, they knew that what you do at a physical level will change everything at different level: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and it's all integrated. And I think it's time to go back to that as well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I agree.
Yeah. So from my point of view, my positive message basically is we can do something by really daily when we become aware of some pattern, and it's taking care of our bodies through the food we ingest 3 times a day minimum. Some people up to 10, and the breathing. So we have really tools in our hands, and I really want to send this message to these workers, because sometimes over time with this chronic stress and this emotional pattern, we may feel disempowered. So you can treat your stress through a good meal, and that's what I'd like to talk about, and because that's a way to feel more in control.
Yeah.
And that's really important, because the statistic I was evoking earlier, they show that lack of control is one of the main trigger.
Oh, that's really interesting. And I think people don't realize just the power that knowledge gives them. It doesn't have to be a crazy big fix. When you have just the knowledge of what's going on with you, then I feel like a lot of people are just shooting from the hip, trying to, I don't know what's wrong, I don't, and then they'd go down this like slippery slope of just negativity, and then that feeds into it, and it's just having the knowledge of, oh well, maybe that's what it is. And if they just get really basic tools, and that's kind of the message I try to get across all the time, is it's just having the tools you need to deal with that stuff. And it's usually pretty basic stuff: nutrition, getting a good night's sleep, maybe a little exercise, not drinking so much.
And that's why I started with red flags and physical cues and something that is tangible, because where things goes really berserk is by either not being aware or denying it. And so I think that's why we started this conversation on signs and tangible signs and symptoms. And where I'd like to pursue as well is on tangible little things. And as you say, we tend to look for big guns where often really tweaking. I'm always talking about evolution, not revolution. So do one step at a time. And if I bring back the conversation about the diet, so let's put things straight. It's simple, but doesn't mean it's easy. Okay, so it means you need awareness, you need commitments, and life is 50-50. Okay, 50 pain, 50 joy, and we need to do what we need to do. So I'm not talking here about a magic pill, but I'm talking about things you can identify 3 times a day. And for example, if you start your workday with a large coffee, double shot, like I've seen triple shot in Australia recently, with 3 sugars and a lot of milk, what happened? You set your body for blood sugar swings and caffeine overload. So that won't help you to bounce back quickly when stressful events present to you during the day, because this stressful event will present to you, but the body will be under blood sugar swings. So it will make your mood swings. So you will become reactive to these work events or these live events. So that won't help you. And I hear lots, yes, Val, but I've done that all my life and I've been fine.
Yeah.
Yes, sure. But what you used to tolerate, you may not anymore, because your body physiology changing and your environment is changing. But also, and that's what I want to pinpoint, is because you may become so accustomed to your chronic stress that you are not realizing you could feel better by changing things and by tweaking your diet. And I see that over and over with my clients. They come to me, everything is fine. We start to work, and then they realize, I didn't know I could feel that way.
Yeah.
And that's really important.
Absolutely. Because you just said, fine, I've done this my whole life and I've been fine, but there's a big difference between fine and good, or fine and healthy, or you can get by for a long time just being fine.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you're happy or you're feeling great or you have tons of energy or whatever. You can go a long time with bad habits. That doesn't mean it's good though.
And that's where I come to life is 50-50, 50 pain, 50 joy. And I think where our choice is deeply is, okay, do you want to put effort, so a sort of pain to get better, or do we want to get under what present to us as a consequences of what we are not doing? And that's a decision, and I do respect both. But where I want to drive the attention is, during my 10 years experience with working with people, I did realize that what happens is people don't even know it exists, that they could be better.
They don't. I really, it's a thinking error. It's just a thinking error.
Through experience. Try, when you feel ready, I encourage you to try, and it may or may not be for you, but definitely you would know if things are changing, and usually when you do try and start to feel better, you tend not to want to go back.
Yeah, absolutely, because people don't realize how good that feels to be healthy and to be happy and to feel joy. I think people genuinely go through the majority of their life without feeling joy, and you can't feel joy when you're under stress all the time.
Yeah. And that brings me to something that one of my mentors keep repeating us. He said, we are in a crazy society because we drink coffee to pick us up, we eat sugar to keep us going, and then we drink alcohol to cool us down. And so we all day long we turn to these external substances to cope with life event, basically. And these substances, they actually aggravate the effect of stress over time, because they will change the way how our body reacts to these events in a detrimental way. And these three things for me are under the radar when talking about stress, and they are really common in the workforce. They are caffeine, sugar, and alcohol. And we have to talk about that because it's socially so common, and is socially associated with connecting with others. So that's good as well to acknowledge that.
No, it's so true. It's so true. I think and something I noticed too, and I especially in groups of men, but in general, when people are living in a healthy way, they almost get like bullied for it. People kind of give them a hard time if they don't go to the bar after work, or if they choose to get up early in the morning to get a workout in, or anything like that. It's like not cool to be healthy.
Unfortunately, things are changing. My husband lived on site for 25 years, roughly 15 years before I entered this natural health field. And then I started to study, and we started to talk about it. He started to see some effects when he was at home, eating differently and things like that. And we started to talk. And yes, it's really difficult to get against the current
Yeah.
But we've both noticed, and I'm talking about Australia, and I was talking about breakfast. And for me, breakfast is setting the scene for the day. So I was talking about this coffee, this yo-yo in your blood sugar. You will get energy slump as well. So it's not conducive of your productivity, your mental clarity, and all the things. And at least in Australia, on site, there is some things changing. But yes, you're right. There's still this pressure of peers. However, I've seen in my career as well, working with people, that when you do change, your environment change, and you can lead as well by example.
Mm-hmm.
And finding your tribe on site maybe as well helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just I think a tough life lesson always, is when you start to change. Yeah, the people around you change, or they seemingly change. It's really just because you're changing and growing. And
And if you work with someone that is feeling tired, grumpy, forgetful, not well, even sometimes aggressive, not reacting very well, and this person decides to do something and suddenly his behavior change, I think we are all curious about it.
Yeah.
Okay,
what did you
maybe
do?
It can happen to me. Sometimes we see the result, not the efforts. And so we are ready or not to do the efforts as well. But
that's so true. That's so true. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Really good point.
But perhaps if today I would give just one piece of advice of workers being on site or off site, is to pay attention how they start their workday. Do they start with a glass of water or coffee? Do they start their workday with a croissant or a egg-based dish? Do they start with vegetables or some jam? And just to be, if they want to try for themselves, just to be conscious, they will set the scene for the day ahead. And yes, I know now on site in Australia, there is some options. So if they want to try, at least here, hopefully worldwide, options are there. If they are off site, it's usually easier because they are at home. Yeah.
Australia sets the standard that with on site options that I think the rest of the world should be following along with. It seems like it anyway, from what I know.
There is margin for progress, but for sure, there is option where you can really because when we talk about these these stressful events in the body, being mental or being physical, getting a balanced meal is crucial. Yes. So we used to see on site this cream pasta dish, heavy meal. This meal does not help your body to recover quickly from a stress response, because there is many reasons. Because with this dish, you will burden your digestive system first. So you will be aware you will use a lot of energy to digest, and you could use this energy to many other things. And you will also burn some precious nutrients and not replenishing them. So you accumulate deficit. So that's the second thing. And as well, you swing, so your energy is not balanced. You're really tired, and then up and tired and up. So nowadays, I think on this meal plan, you have the choice to get from quality protein. There is more fish. Fish is really good for your stress response, your mental health. There is more vegetables available. And vegetables are really rich in magnesium and vitamin B. So that things slowly, I want to plant the seeds of, okay, what can you do? If it's there, can you change that? And as I said, it's not a revolution you need. It's just changing things slowly. Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
taking pasta once a week, and perhaps you can just explore some veggies for any other days or things like
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and observe with you for yourself how
What
much it
works.
changed your energy, how
Yeah.
much it changed your reaction, and over time it happens. I'm sure that. Just a quick word as well. I'm a heart coherence coach, and I think what we also underestimate is the role of our breath.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And something we can all do. And I'm a bit stressed over in the camera, and I just did, and
Yeah.
then yeah.
Yeah.
So even myself, after 10 years of training myself in breathing work, I need to remember sometimes to bring it back on the scene, and that's something that I always say. You can't change the movie of your life. That's the external event that happened to you. But what you can do is change the soundtrack.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's always going to be things out of our control, but it's up to us what we're going to do with it. So yeah, I agree with that. Small changes gradually.
Yeah, but on that note, I don't want also to deny that there is profound distress, and that profound distress needs to be recognized, but also sometimes we need to be supported on that path, okay? Because it looks, as I said, it's simple, but it's not easy. And so
exactly. Yeah. When I say basic, you're right. I should clarify that more. It's not easy. I do get that, but it doesn't have to be grand. That's what I mean when you just like take small steps gradually to make, and then it turns into a big change over time. But yeah, you're right. It's still not easy. It still does take work and commitment and all those things.
And we still need some support on the way sometimes, sometimes also. I don't know if I don't want to be black and white, but I think in the male world, admitting that you need help is sometimes not considered as much as is in the female energy. And that's something as well. A message perhaps we can share is we all need support at some stage.
We do.
And asking for help is fine.
It's more, it's so fine. I think, and that's something I have to understand myself, is that I'm not always great at asking for help, but I understand, like, for men, it's even harder for some reason. It's culture, it's upbringing, it's all kinds of, they have to be tough all the time. But truth of the matter is they're under insane amounts of pressure constantly. So yeah. And I don't know if I think a lot of it is they're afraid they're going to be judged, whether it's by the person they're asking for help or their friends, coworkers, whatever the case may be. But when you reach out for help, it's always confidential anyway. Nobody's going to know about it, especially now. I mean, you can jump on a Zoom call and have it over with in a half an hour if you want it to be. And that's that.
Yeah, that's accessible. So. And in my education, my belief as well, I would not take about male female so much, but male energy and female energy. As you said, that's your male energy not looking for some help, because that's a tough, like we all have a little bit of both, but it's more characteristic in the upbringing as well.
It is. Yep, I understand it, because like I said, I'm not great at asking for help either, but something we all have to do at some point or another. It's pretty hard, but the quicker you can learn how to do it, the easier things become.
Yeah, and when you are under stress, as I said, for example, exercising, like you mentioned, breathing, changing your diet, this is where you don't have the energy to do. So having these boosts and this support, and sometimes also being accountable to someone. When you live, you have lived like that. Workers, like I said, they are on site all their life. They spend, I don't know, an incredible amount of time there.
Yeah, they do.
On the work, in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
So
More time than they wouldn't, I think.
Yeah, and particularly on site, because even at the end of the day, you're still in the same environment.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. When they don't get to go home at the end of the day.
No.
Yeah,
to kind of
for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Not much of a turn off there, or switch off. Yeah. Well, I know you're short on time, Val, but I appreciate you so much coming on. And guys, you should really follow along with Val. Her Instagram account's called Be Well Vitality. Just that's what they would search on Instagram. Okay, perfect. Yeah, she shares some really great content. So go follow along with her. And again, thank you so much for coming on, Val.
And thank you, Lizzie. I really think your work is needed at the moment. So
yeah, likewise. Thank you so much.
Bye.